Tonight, an extra £820 million for the Scottish Government as part of the UK budget. Chancellor Rachel Reeves laid out her fiscal plans for the next year with a raft of changes to taxes and spending.
£820 million for the Scottish Government over the spending review period because Anna Sawa asked us to.
They are hiking taxes on workers, pensioners and savers to pay for handouts to keep their backbenchers quiet.
Among the measures, the two-child benefit cap is scrapped. It's a move that's been welcomed by organisations supporting families in need.
Families have told us that as a result of the policy, they've struggled to put food on the table. They've made choices between feeding their children and feeding themselves.
Scottish hospices say they are being stretched to breaking point with financial pressure taking its toll on services. And in sport, Danny Rule says Rangers must move forward after sacking the chief executive and sporting director. I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. The Chancellor has announced an extra £820 million for the Scottish Government as part of the UK budget. Rachel Reeves set out her fiscal plans with a raft of changes to taxes and spending. It came after an unprecedented early leak of the details online, a blunder she described as deeply disappointing. Some of the most significant measures announced today include the removal of the two-child benefit cap. There will be a rise in national minimum wage for workers and a new tax for electric vehicles. It'll be a mileage-based charge starting in 2028. The Chancellor also announced an investment in Scottish towns to promote growth. Grangemouth, Greenock and Kirkcaldy will all receive a boost. In a moment, we'll hear more about how the budget will affect you. But first, our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie, looks at how it unfolded.
Chancellor, is Christmas cancelled? Are you about to break your manifesto pledges?
The answers came earlier than expected. Details of the measures inside the Chancellor's red box were published half an hour early by mistake. It was a chaotic conclusion to a budget process marked by U-turns, leaks and speculation.
This all falls short of standards that the House expects.
A rap in the knuckles from the Deputy Speaker before Rachel Reeves announced extra money for Scotland.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that from the SNP. Did they not? Perhaps, Madam Deputy Speaker, they didn't hear. £820 million for the Scottish Government over the spending review period.
The Chancellor also confirmed an end to the limit on children eligible for universal or child tax credit.
I can announce today, fully costed and fully funded, the removal of the two-child limit in full from April.
While income tax thresholds are decided at Holyrood, Rachel Reeves froze the personal allowance, the level people start paying. That will hit here as salaries increase.
Cutting the debt, cutting waiting lists and cutting the cost of living. Those are Labour choices, promised and delivered by this budget, promised and delivered by this Labour government. And Madam Deputy Speaker, I commend this statement to the House.
A pat on the back from the Prime Minister, but the Conservatives say this budget amounts to a total humiliation.
This is a budget for Benefit Street, Madam Deputy Speaker, paid for by working people. This budget increases benefits for 560,000 families by an average of £5,000. They are hiking taxes on workers, pensioners and savers to pay for handouts to keep their backbenchers quiet.
The Scottish Government says the budget will not move the dial on the cost of living.
In terms of energy bills, well, look, households will not be cheering from the rafters because, in actual fact, their household bills are still about £340 higher than Labour promised, even with today's announcement. So household budgets are still under a lot of stress and strain.
After the announcements comes the hard sell, as the Chancellor looks to win over backbenchers as well as voters. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Our political editor Colin Mackay is at Westminster. Colin, what did you make of the Chancellor's budget today?
Well, after weeks of leaks, the leak to top them all, the Office for Budget Responsibility blurted out the whole thing before the Chancellor even had the chance to get to her feet in Parliament. It's been a chaotic process. It was a chaotic start today. But when she actually did get on with it, I thought Rachel Reeves delivered her budget speech pretty well. Again, some really, really heavy barracking from the Conservative benches. And you could see how nervous she was when she took a drink of water. Her hand was shaking. But when you look at a UK budget nowadays, you have to look at it a second time to see what it actually means for Scotland. Things like income tax, most of it certainly the mansion tax, they don't really apply to people in Scotland. But there are new taxes, as you mentioned, on electric vehicles, on online gambling, things like scrapping the two-child benefit cap and cutting energy bills. They apply right across the UK. And I spoke earlier to the Scottish Secretary, who obviously thinks it's great.
What we've seen is a Labour budget delivering for the people of Scotland. £820 million more money to back Scottish public services, an energy price cut of £150 coming through next spring, and at the same time 26,000 households lifted out of poverty, about 100,000 Scottish kids helped as a direct result of the measures announced today. That's a Labour budget delivering for Scotland.
820 million in Barnett consequentials. Over how long?
Till 28-29 financial years, so over the spending review period.
So that's over quite a long period of time. It doesn't amount to, well, it amounts to less than 1% a year, doesn't it?
Well, if you look at the amount that we've now contributed to the Scottish Government's budget...
But on this one alone, it's less than 1%, isn't it?
Just let me add to the point.
Isn't it?
It's £10 billion since July 2024 when we came to power, on top of everything else. That is comfortably, Colin, the largest settlement in the 25 years of devolution. We had already delivered £5.2 billion before this budget. We've now seen with the increase today that there will be significant additional resources available for Scotland.
So there's a lot more for Scotland last year in the budget than there is this year?
Yes, we've topped up the money we gave last year, but now we're looking at £10 billion more delivered by a Labour government to the Scottish Government.
And Colin, what about the wider reaction?
Well, there's an enthusiastic reaction on the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap. Charities are welcoming it as bold action from the government. It will save the Scottish Government £155 million that they were planning to spend on mitigating it next year. The business sector's less happy. They're not seeing this as a budget for growth, they say, with record tax levels up £26 billion. The oil and gas sector's far from happy with the North Sea future plan. They say they're shedding 1,000 jobs a month and this will do nothing to stop that. Unions, though, are welcoming the increase in the minimum wage. The Chancellor says this is about tackling the cost of living, but the figures from the OBR say that this will barely increase real household disposable incomes at all over the next couple of years. Next comes the Scottish budget in January. That's when we'll find out what's going on with our income taxes.
Colin, at Westminster, thank you. So what does the budget mean for you at home? Ollie Dickinson has been looking at the numbers and speaking to those impacted by today's changes, and he joins us now in the studio. So, Ollie, what have they had to say?
John, this is a big budget, isn't it? And the big one of all of them, scrapping the two-child benefit cap from next year. That cap had meant parents could only claim universal credit or tax credits for their first two children. The Chancellor had faced big pressure from within her own party and from the third sector to scrap this measure. It will cost the government £3 billion by 2029-30, but charities say it will make a huge difference to families in need.
Families have told us that as a result of the policy, they've struggled to put food on the table. They've made choices between feeding their children and feeding themselves. And it's had a really knock-on impact on what opportunities they're able to have. And as a result of lifting the policy, we know that about 15 to 20,000 children in Scotland will be lifted out of poverty.
Then let's look at another big one, the national minimum wage rise. For workers aged 18 to 20, it's currently at £10 an hour. There it is, but it's moving to £10.85. Meanwhile, for 16 to 17-year-olds and those on apprenticeships, that's going from £7.55 to £8 an hour.
A rise in minimum wage will help, but wages alone won't solve in-work poverty. What we need is better jobs, not just more jobs. And also we need a system which joins everything up for people, that joins up skills, health, education, employment into a whole household approach. So the households we work with, 77% of them need help in 5 or more different areas all at the same time. So that should tell you that siloed approaches will not solve the problems that people have in just one of those areas.
And then, of course, there are a whole range of other measures that have been introduced. We already knew about the changes to the sugar tax, for example. That means that a can of Iron Brew will be taxed for the first time, as will pre-packaged milkshakes and coffees. Electric car owners will be hit by a new tax. That's 3p per mile for battery electric cars and 1.5 pence for plug-in hybrids. There will also be a change to the duty charged on online gaming and gambling. Finally, though, a raft of investments for Scottish towns, including Greenock, Grangemouth and Kirkcaldy, which is getting £20 million, and that's something locals have welcomed.
We just have to really sort of find out what, you know, it has to be money that's wisely spent. You know, for that sum of money, it just cannot be wasted.
I think that's awesome. I look forward to see what they do with it.
I think it's spent in the right place, that's it.
I hope they really make something of it, and that there's things down in the promenade and just more life to the street.
I heard something about it. I didn't know really much about it, but I did hear that that could be happening. But I think that's probably pretty good for the high street, because it's not very good right now. And,
Lots of information today then, lots of number crunching, and of course in January there will be a Scottish budget where attention will turn to things like income tax on earners here.
Ollie, thank you. To other news, and underfunding has left 2/3 of Scottish hospices stretched to breaking point. Hospice UK say the figures reflect severe and unsustainable financial pressures across the sector. The organisation says the affected hospices have either made cuts or are planning to in the next year. And they say there must be a dedicated funding to protect their vital services. Vanessa Kennedy reports.
Show you the menu and there's options there.
Alison has lung cancer. Every day she lives with debilitating pain from secondary masses in her pelvis. She's been given a prognosis of between 6 and 9 months to live. This hospice in Edinburgh is here to make her day-to-day more comfortable, and despite her pain, Alison says it's making a big difference.
The staff are just like stars. They can't actually do anything more for you. As I'm sure you'll appreciate, mental health is just as important as your physical health when you're going through palliative care. You have to get to an end result where, you know, my end result is like I'm not in as much pain. So that's what I'm striving towards. Since I've been in here, there's already been improvements in how I can lift my leg, how I can walk, and how I can sleep.
While some patients spend the end of their life at a hospice, the care provided here means around 1/3 of them will be able to go back home to spend their last days with loved ones where they can continue treatment that's been tailored to their needs. But now there's a worry that these vital palliative care services could be under threat. New analysis has shown that 2/3 of Scottish hospices either have already made cuts or are planning to within the next year. Those working in the sector say while demand for services has gone up, funding is not keeping up and say it's left them vulnerable.
Food and fuel's much dearer, insurance is dearer, but the funding from the government hasn't moved with the times at all. We're very fortunate in that our communities are hugely generous and our funding from our local communities has gone up, but it's not able to stay and match pace with the increased costs, mainly because our government funding is not moving.
With the number of people requiring end-of-life services predicted to go up by 10,000 by 2040, there's a call to meet the demand.
We need these hospice services more than ever. Hospice care provides vital care and support. It helps keep people at home and out of hospital, but it must be sustainable. That's why we're calling for Scottish Government to provide dedicated funding in its upcoming budget. Looking ahead to next year's elections, the next Scottish Government must make a long-term plan to invest in reform and palliative care.
The Scottish Government says it recognises the pressures and has provided funding this year to ensure hospices can deliver pay parity with NHS staff. Alison's focus is now to spend her last Christmas at home with her family, something that wouldn't be possible without the help she gets here. Vanessa Kennedy, STV News Edinburgh.
NHS Tayside destroyed 40 theatre logbooks detailing operations carried out by the disgraced surgeon Sam El-Jamel months after a do not destroy notice was issued. A public inquiry heard that the hard copies, which could have contained vital evidence, were ruined in the summer. The lawyer representing patients described it as gross negligence or possible malice. The Health Board said it was an error and that it's sorry. Lynn Rankin reports.
Some have suffered suicidal ideation. Some have lost their jobs, their ability to access work and education, their homes, their marriages and their families.
The public inquiry into Sam El-Jamel opened with the lasting daily damage faced by those who put their life in his hands. And then the revelation that NHS Tayside had destroyed potentially key evidence, despite the inquiry chair issuing a do not destroy order in October last year.
The board has recently discovered that around 40 hard copy theatre logbooks, which would have contained information relating to Mr El-Jamel's surgeries in the period 1995 to 2013, were destroyed by NHS Tayside employees this summer on the 24th of July 2025. It seems to us that the only explanation for what has occurred must be gross negligence or indeed possible malice.
It has been ascertained that the theatre logbooks were destroyed by members of the department in which they were held. The individuals involved were not aware of the connection between the theatre logbooks and Mr El-Jamel. The destruction was carried out in accordance with the NHS and Scottish Government guidance policies. The destroyed theatre logbooks related to surgeries undertaken by Mr El-Jamel and by other members of staff. NHS Tayside deeply regrets this error and is committed to ensuring that it does not happen again.
Many patients who have campaigned for this inquiry have claimed parts of their medical records are missing or have been falsified. For them, the destruction of potentially crucial evidence is shocking, but not surprising.
Atrocious and despicable, but in the same breath, I'm not surprised. This health board, this current leadership, they claim that they have systemic changes. They can't even keep their admin in order, their house in order with the admin, to enable personnel delete 40 important log files.
The inquiry could be extended beyond Ninewells Hospital in Dundee to examine other parts of the NHS, including Fife. Patients had been due to begin giving evidence in April. That has now been postponed until September next year, a moment that will mark 3 years since they won their battle for a public inquiry to be granted. Lynn Rankin, STV News.
A motorcyclist killed a pensioner after driving his off-road bike at double the speed limit. Joshua Finlay struck David Gow as he crossed the road in Glasgow's Lamb Hill in February 2023. The 24-year-old pleaded guilty to a charge of causing death by dangerous driving and will be sentenced next month. Finlay did not have a licence to ride the bike when he hit the 79-year-old. Morton's Rolls workers are to receive more than £1 million in compensation. The bakers collapsed into administration 2 years ago before being saved in a rescue deal. Thomson solicitors fought for compensation for around 100 staff. The UK government is now paying out, with some employees due a first payment of more than £20,000. Around half of the workforce were called back after the rescue deal. A watch dealer from Dumbarton who defrauded his victims out of more than £1 million has been jailed for 5 years. Adam Moore Lynch, who is based in Manchester, promises to sell on clients' high-value watches for a fee, but instead kept the cash for himself. The watches included a Rolex worth £120,000. He pleaded guilty to charges including fraud at Manchester Crown Court today. India's boost to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games has been formally approved today at the Commonwealth Sport General Assembly in Glasgow. The competition will be held in the western city of Ahmedabad, marking the return of the Games to India 2 decades after they were last held in Delhi. Rahim Cham has more.
In a spectacular display of colour, tradition and culture, India celebrated the approval of its bid to host the centenary Commonwealth Games in 2030.
We are so much excited, and it's an honor for us that India finally is hosting the Commonwealth Games.
Ahmedabad is a beautiful city, and we are very excited. A lot of effort has gone, welcome all the delegates and sportspersons from all around the world. And India will win lots of gold. We are very excited.
Hoping for that.
Yeah.
Let's go, India. We'll see you in Ahmedabad.
India's western city of Ahmedabad will be playing host Up to 17 sports are expected to feature, a significant increase from the 10 scheduled for next summer's scaled-down games in Glasgow.
In many ways, you could say 2026 has saved a lot of what we'd want to say, and we have to be very grateful that Glasgow stood up. And that, in many ways, built the momentum that we're seeing, that there's been an unprecedented level of interest from other countries. And what we know when we come here, well, it's a proud legacy. We're going to have a very good game.
Archery, 3-on-3 basketball, rhythmic gymnastics and rugby sevens are amongst the games under consideration. India can propose up to 2 new or traditional sports for the event.
The games are set to take place in Ahmedabad, a city that has hugely upgraded its sports infrastructure over the past decade, making it a serious bid to revive the Commonwealth Games in full scale, in contrast to Glasgow's scaled-down model, which will be happening next year.
Athletes say they are excited to see what India 2030 will bring.
The next year, 2026, it's also very important because we had Commonwealth Games as well as Asian Games. So yeah, our training is going on, and yeah, we will continue it.
Yeah, I think high expectations. I think it's the best way to be. You know, obviously the external expectations are there, but I'm going to have my own. You know, last time, I was able to win the 2 free and the 2 IM. I think obviously they're 2 events that I'd like to go back to back in.
As Ahmedabad prepares to showcase youth, ambition and rich culture, Glasgow prepares to pass on the baton of competitiveness. Raheem Cham, STV News, Glasgow.
Let's get the sport now from Jamie in the studio.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Black Friday sale.
Good evening. Rangers boss Danny Rule says it's time for the club to move forward together after the sackings of Chief Executive Patrick Stewart and Sporting Director Kevin Thelwell. Rule backed the club structure at Rangers and says he has support in place to achieve his goals at Ibrox. They were the men who hired him, now 2 are gone. Danny Rule's only a month into the job at Rangers and there's already been upheaval, with Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell both sacked this week.
It's always not nice when some people around you get sacked. I had a good relationship with Kevin. We were always in the daily business. We spoke to each other, with Patrick as well. I think I'm close to Andrew. We are in contact every day to speak to each other. But I have also still good people around me. They support me. I think this is crucial. I cannot do this alone or can make decisions alone. I think it's important to understand we have a good structure in the club. We all have to go together in one direction. We want to work on this. We know we have to do something.
Rangers are looking to get their first Europa League points of the campaign when Sporting Braga visit Ibrox tomorrow. Nico Raskan's determined to keep himself in the team after being banished from the squad earlier in the season by former head coach Russell Martin.
No, it was difficult. I can't lie, it was really difficult for me that period, and I'm still trying to get back to my best form, and whether it's physically or mentally. But I had to be quiet and just trying to do my best to get back to playing and to get back to helping the team, which I tried to do. And now I just look forward and I try to improve.
Meanwhile, Livingston say the Scottish FA has apologised for a mistake in failing to award them a penalty for this handball incident in Saturday's 2-1 victory for Rangers at Ibrox. Kelechi Iheanacho has travelled with Celtic squad for tomorrow's Europa League match away to Feyenoord. The striker, who's been out since last month with a hamstring injury, trained with the squad at Celtic Park this morning ahead of flying out to the Netherlands. Hearts boss Derek McInnes says the club is investigating their recent spate of muscle injuries that's been affecting the team. Captain Lauren Shankland is back training after missing the weekend defeat at Aberdeen, but Benny Beningame, Callum Nieuwenhof, Azieu and Finlay Pollock all remain sidelined.
The 4 hamstring injuries that we mentioned there, they're all in different areas. Nieuwenhof and Azieu are quite similar in a sense, but I think it's something that would be that has been spoke about and something we're looking to try and get a bit of clarity on. Sometimes you can just be unlucky, but I think it's wrong just to say it, but just unlucky.
Well, Motherwell boss Jens Bertel Askew was delighted with his side's performance as they defeated Hibs 2-0 last night. VAR spotted a Grant Hanley handball that allowed Tawanda Mazwanise to score from the spot. Elijah Just doubled the advantage just 3 minutes later, and things went from bad to worse for the visitors as Hanley was sent off for denying Mazwanise a clear goal-scoring chance just after the half-hour mark. Hibs boss David Gray said his players showed character with 10 men, but ultimately deserved defeat. Rugby now, and Glasgow Warriors coach Roddy Grant says they are embracing their huge run of URC and European fixtures now that the international break is over. Warriors return with a trip to face Scarlets this weekend before looking forward to the Champions Cup and a derby doubleheader against Edinburgh in December.
Like, it's a big block coming up, this, then 2 huge European games, and then Edinburgh, and you know, so actually I've really enjoyed it. It's been referenced that I find it healthy that we know we're in for it, and it's not just a one-off game this week. You know, we're looking at the big block, and I've enjoyed that.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Black Friday sale.
Tawanda Mazwanise is the top scorer in the Premiership now, John. I'm going to have to get better at saying his name.
I thought you did it pretty well, actually. I've got to say that, Jamie. Thank you. Well, to the weather now, and to Philip, and it's been miserable. I mean, miserable. So what can we expect over the next day or two?
Well, yes, John, today we have seen a big change in our weather. Rather than crisp, chilly conditions, we've seen cloudy and damp weather today. Tomorrow, we're keeping an eye on an area of low pressure moving through. The Met Office have already issued a yellow weather warning running from 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon until 11 a.m. Friday, as we could see gusts of up to 75 miles per hour in some spots. Thankfully, because the strongest winds are expected overnight, the impacts will be limited as there's less people out and about and most people will be in bed. But it will lead to a windy rush hour on Friday morning. Here's the forecast.
An icy start to the day will give way to a series of oohs and ahs. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Throughout today, we've seen an area of low pressure just to the north of us with this frontal system associated with that. That frontal system is what's brought with it today's damp and cloudy conditions. What it's also done, though, is it's introduced a warmer air mass from the west. So that's why our temperatures are climbing a degree or two. Tomorrow, we've got a deep area of low pressure pushing through. We're just keeping an eye on that. It will bring with it some pretty strong winds for much of the country. Back to you just now as we head into the overnight period. Very little change from what we've been seeing throughout the course of the afternoon. Remaining quite cloudy for many of us. We'll see scattered showers merging into longer spells of rain, pushing eastwards overnight. And along with that rain, it will be turning quite breezy. So with the wind, the rain and the cloud, temperatures aren't dropping too far tonight. Lows of around 7 to 10 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead to tomorrow morning, a cloudy start to the day. A lot of low cloud, mist and murk around, some hill fog. We'll continue to see those showers pushing through in the morning. Then by lunchtime, we've got a cold front moving in. That brings with it a narrow band of rain. And then directly behind that, drier and clearer conditions for a time through the late afternoon. Temperature-wise, up a fair few degrees compared to what we have been seeing, highs of 13 or 14. Then come Friday, a very windy start to the day as that low pressure system is pulling away. It does mean our temperatures will be back down a couple of degrees, highs of 10. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, an 8-foot nutcracker statue has been stolen from outside a cocktail bar in Edinburgh. The Truly Nuts CCTV footage from the city's George Street shows a Scrooge of a thief making off with the giant festive ornament at around 10 p.m. on Monday. While police are trying to crack the case, the venue's manager says no further action will be taken if the statue, named Nolan, is returned undamaged. Well, he is hoping. Scotland Tonight at 10:40. More on the budget from all of us, though. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.